I am Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And we're paranormal specialists who live in the most haunted city on earth, Savannah, Georgia. Every day is Halloween in our line of work, so join us as we spin true tales of haunts, murders, and disturbing Savannah history. I'm Madison.
I'm Chris.
And welcome to the most haunted city on earth. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Most Haunted City on Earth. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And I'm on Smoko, so leave me alone.
Nobody gets that reference.
Everyone gets that. Everyone gets that reference.
I didn't get that reference.
If you didn't get the reference, go stop watching the episode. It's the only time I'm going to tell you to do it. And then you got to go type in Google on Smoko and listen to the song. Listen to it. It's great.
And then come back.
You're never gonna not listen to it. That's how good it is. It's just like it's fantastic.
By the chats?
Yes.
By the chats.
Our Australian viewers will know it.
Yep.
But
Our Australian viewers will know it. I'm on Smoko, so leave me alone.
essentially what it means is you're on your break.
Your break.
So
Gotcha.
go away.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But JT is not on his
He's
break.
not on his break.
So,
Not even a little.
so
I'm never on my
Manning
break.
the controls. And for those of you who are only listening to us, you can't see this giant birthday bag right in front of Madison because we are having a birthday episode.
Yes, that's right, a birthday episode. And as a wonderful gift to Madison, she gets to choose the entire content of this podcast today and lead us down whatever rabbit hole she wants to go down.
Heck yeah.
There's an applause. You can't hear it, but
Let us know when the applause is over.
it's long. It's long. Okay, there it is.
Oh,
Okay.
well, there's the sound effects.
It's like 12 seconds. What?
12 seconds of applause.
Yeah, it's like
That's
anyway.
nice. Oh, thunderous applause.
And these
from,
people are lit too.
from
Wow.
This
like,
guy on his smoko is.
Yeah.
But before we get into the birthday activities, we do want to say if you are interested in becoming a parajunkie, you should definitely do so. Currently, we are live streaming for my birthday episode with the parajunkies. We've been
live stream
talking
every
about
one.
cats fighting demons and Cthulhu.
And you missed what led one of our parajunkies to say chunky thump.
Chunky thump.
Chunky thump.
And, if you were a part of the parajunkies, you'd be in on the chunky thumping.
Yep.
Exactly.
That'll probably be my name next episode.
Probably. But yeah, so we have lots of really fun content coming up. We are also going to be interviewing, and that's why we drink on the show.
Absolutely.
So excited.
Which is going to be super fun.
So
and we're going to be doing that on August 29th. So you have a good chunk of time to decide
Chunky
whether
thump of
a
time.
chunky thump of time
Yeah, chunky thump of time.
before we do that, so that you can join us over on Patreon, so that you can get the live streams and all those fun things.
Yes, and that's why we drink. It's going to be so fun.
It's gonna be a really good time.
It's going to be a great episode. We're going to talk about their new book. It's going to be super lit, and
They're about to go out on a another live tour.
Yeah.
Kicking off, I think, in September.
So yeah, that'll be August 29th.
Yep, August 29th.
Yep.
But yeah, so I had this nice little birthday bag in front of me. When Chris came in and he put it down, it made quite
the sound. So if it's
It made a
broken,
chunky thump.
It did make a chunky thump.
Exactly. So I'm very curious as to what it is in here. And thank you, Elle. Elle just said, "Happy birthday, Maddie." Thank you.
Yay.
So I'm going to take out the paper to distribute to our ghost cat, which you also missed
we're
out
there's
on.
a ghost cat here. I'll take one.
Which you also missed out on if you were not a part of the live stream. But yes, ooh, it feels like mug.
Oh boy.
It's freaking bats. I love Halloween.
Oh god.
It's that time of year.
What
It is that time of year. It is a bat mug.
Bat mug.
Bat mug. It is not like a Batman bat mug, but like a Halloween bat mug.
Like a Patrick mug. Your options.
Your options, whether you think
Halloween bat mug, not a Batman bat mug.
So says the spirit chat. But yes, thank you, Chris. This is
Yeah.
very delightful. I'm going to drink my juice out of this in the morning.
Right.
Oh yeah.
It'd be very spooky.
Spooky indeed.
It actually would be a very good little flower vase as well.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's a great point.
You can put like dead roses in it, and then
I usually have
the
those.
full aesthetic, or just sage sticking out of it.
That could also be very helpful in my case scenario.
Grab the sage.
Yes. Well, exactly. And before we get into the meat of our episode, if you will, it's been a while since we have done a cryptids, creatures, and critters.
What?
Cryptid roulette. So.
Dun, da, da, da.
I got an air horn. 3, 2, 1. Nice.
I hope that was entertaining for you because we can't hear it.
Right.
That's great.
So, Chris, what are you hoping for this cryptid creature or critter?
I would like something in the Asian variety.
Asian variety.
Yeah, we have not had an Asian.
I know, it's kind of odd. There are quite a few Asian cryptids,
It's a
creatures,
large
and critters.
portion of the world.
Right, major portion of the
A
world.
major portion of the world.
Still yet to have come across it. JT, what are you hoping for?
Same.
Asiatic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So, we've already done that one.
Cryptids.
So what's the first one?
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
Dun, da, da, da.
Oh, my Lord.
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
So there you go.
There's a giant truck that could run over smaller cars, had big tractor wheels on it.
It's called Bigfoot.
Oh, my
Oh,
God.
yeah. Oh, the monster truck. Yes.
Yeah, it was called
Oh.
Bigfoot. The original monster truck was in fact called
Well,
Bigfoot.
pardon my ignorance.
Oh, no, I just realized that is also like an 80s reference, so.
Kim Dixon said, "Come on, Pakuji."
No, it's Puckawudgie.
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 Do they have that one? Everyone knows Bigfoot.
Puckawudgie.
Everyone knows
Yeah,
Bigfoot.
let's see.
Is it alphabetical?
Should be. I think it's category.
Oh, is there an index?
Probably.
One
I
would hope
reckon.
there's
I mean,
an
if
index.
Bigfoot's the first,
Yeah, but there
it's
are.
also the OG.
Yeah.
It's like the OG cryptid.
This is references. Contributors. Well, I'm not seeing.
Yeah, nah.
Hey.
It's all good.
It's interesting because they get more anime
Oh, here
towards
you
the back.
go. How about this one? This one's from China for Chris.
nice.
It looks
So-
like a Pokemon.
It does look like a Pokemon. It's called a Zing.
Oh, it
Zang.
does look like a Pokemon.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Zang is a ferocious and malevolent beast, and is the
Not
male
according to this picture.
and is the male counterpart to the female Ning.
Oh, a male Ning?
I guess so.
That's interesting.
He is illustrated to have the body of a leopard and a singular horn on his head.
And he's so cutesy pootsy.
He is. He also, I probably should have said, he is from China, and his category is monster.
But he got little beans.
He got toe beans.
Got the little toe beans.
I thought he was malevolent.
He looks adorable. Just adorable.
Wow. Okay.
It's kind of upsetting.
So the Zang lives high up in the mountains, where I would expect a leopard tiger thing to live, but where the high altitude makes it difficult for others to breathe. Thus, it is theorized that he does not require oxygen, or may have a biological system that allows him to go for long periods of time without oxygen. Because he lives in high, cold mountains, his red fur is incredibly thick and sought after, as it may carry magical properties.
Dang, they're trying to
Just
skin
keep
it.
you warm.
Yeah.
Right.
They skinning this man?
Apparently.
He's got an incredible tail.
When hunting, the Zang uses his 5 tails. He has 5 of them.
Impressive. That's interesting because it seems like in Asian lore, animals oftentimes have multiple tails, and the number of tails oftentimes denotes their power and their strength.
Yeah, there's a
like that
Pokemon-
Kitsune has like 9 tails.
There's a Pokemon called Ninetales.
Yeah, the fox 9 tails.
Yeah.
It does seem like that is a theme throughout Asian folklore.
Well, he uses his 5 tails in a display to distract his prey.
Ah.
and this next part's going to sound very much so like a Pokemon move. He can snap his tails together to create the sound of stones striking against each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very effective.
It's
very effective.
The Zheng is not the only multi-tailed feline in Chinese mythology, like Chris said. There's also the Han, which resembles a lynx or bobcat. The Han has 3 long tails and a single eye in the center of its forehead. The Han scares away misfortune, and wearing its fur as a coat could cure jaundice.
Wow.
Well, how specific.
Yeah.
But only jaundice.
But only jaundice.
It's like, I've got lockjaw. Sorry, this fur's not going to help you. You're looking a little yellow. Your liver a little... Here, let's put this on you. Jaundice cured.
That's wild.
That is wild. That's
Also,
crazy.
Madison, Lorelei wished you a Hawaiian happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Pretty cool.
I love Hawaii.
Yes.
Very fond of that state.
It's a lovely state.
A lovely state.
But
Cool. All right. So
all right, so here's the thing. I know all of you are probably thinking that I'm picking something that is Fae related, which I almost did.
I mean, you are Faye Daddy.
Well, listen, this is like Fae adjacent, is what I like to think.
In the realm of Fae, neighborhood of Fae.
Right. I mean, we are going to be in the realm of mythology, but
there you
also a little bit witchcraft.
Ho ho.
So we're going to be talking about the Morrigan.
Oh, yay.
I really enjoy the Morrigan's lore. And
The
three
three
sisters. Yeah. So, and I don't think we've really done any sort of deep dives into certain deities and things like that.
That's true. And Morrigan is 100% a Fae figure. She is absolutely of the... I always have a hard time saying duodenum.
Yep.
She is one of the principal figures in Celtic Fae tradition.
So there you go. So yes, Fae Daddy is still providing
Absolutely.
somewhat.
This is Fae content.
Yes, some Fae content.
What was
for
the
you.
word you said?
Well, here I will pronounce it for.
Datum.
I'm over here
It's
like
to
hearing the
hut
word for
de
rent. Like
danan.
B-O-M.
It's more D sounding, but it is TH. It's
Okay.
duodenum.
Okay.
Yes.
Duodenum. It means the children of Deum or the children of Dua.
It's a race of
Okay.
supernatural Fae beings, basically.
Yes. They rule Tirananog, which is the Fae lands. Like when you talk about planes that you go to, the Fae lands are the Tirananog.
So yeah, JT is gonna have a really fun time listening to this one. So
No,
I apologize because I'm sure I'm not pronouncing things correctly.
I tried my best to find the as closely phonetic,
Right.
pronunciations for these things.
It's
but
tricky.
I don't speak Gaelic, but nonetheless.
Before we start, tell our listeners, we have a lot of new listeners after the Conjuring
Sure.
one. So tell our listeners what a From One to Wicked is. The people who have not, because we don't do them often, but when we do them, we usually have some new people listening.
So basically, from One to Wicked, essentially, we are going to rate this particular being, entity, if you will, on a scale from 1 being the least malevolent, which I believe currently is Squonk.
Squonk.
Which is a very sad Pennsylvanian
I think
cryptid.
we actually were in the negatives at one point with
with
the
the Squonk. And then our current highest Wicked, I believe, is Bloody Mackenzie.
Bloody Mackenzie.
So
We had him at an 8.5 or a 9 or something.
something
was
along
up
those
there.
lines.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically Wicked being the most evil.
Fearsome, yeah.
Amityville was like a 3, dude, or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. Y'all
There's
need
a lot
to
to
go.
pick apart. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate, yeah.
Exactly.
I usually, if you want to listen to our past From One to Wickeds, I usually include it in the title, like this one. So yeah,
Are we one to wicketing this?
we are.
Yes, we're gonna One to Wicked the Morrigan, but Elle said, and there's Squonk merch.
There is.
There is Squonk
She
merch.
drew
Yes,
it.
yes. I
do
love
it, and
this
we
squonk.
have another L release coming here soon.
I'm really excited about
Yes,
this
Madison
one.
loves it. It's good, but we're not going. That's gonna be next episode.
Yeah, that'll be next episode. But yes, I am very excited about it nonetheless. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive into the Morrigan's lore, if you will.
Morrigan.
So, the Morrigan is a figure from Irish mythology, often depicted as a goddess of war, fate, and death.
All right.
What JT likes.
No, I'm fine with this. It's just for all the new people, I'm more like a demon guy. So
That's true.
That is true.
That's true. The Morrigan is oftentimes thought of as evil, but that's kind of a misnomer because she chooses who dies in war, and if you have her favor, you will not die. And that may not be a great thing either.
Right. Well, and that's why I'm thinking, this could add to her wickedness rating, if you will.
okay.
But yeah, so she is associated with sovereignty, prophecy, and magic, and her mythology is very rich and complex.
Yes, very much.
So let's start with the origins and the etymology of her. So the name, the Morrigan, is often interpreted to mean great queen or phantom queen. She's also sometimes referred to as this list of names, if you
Yes.
will. So we've got the Morrigan goddess, the Celtic goddess of death, the Morrigue, the Celtic goddess Morrigan, the great queen goddess Morrigan, the Morrigan, the Morrigan Celtic goddess, the great queen, and the queen of the triple goddesses. So depending on who is telling the story, they can pick from that list of names, if
Yes.
you will.
And the further away you get from Ireland, the more integrated with other beliefs and other traditions, she then serves purposes in multiple belief structures.
Exactly. So the exact etymology is debated, but it is likely that it derives from the Old Irish words mor, meaning great, and rigan, meaning queen. So her pantheon, the Morrigan, is part of the Tuatha De Danann, which is what Chris was talking about earlier, which is a race of supernatural fae beings in Irish mythology, which is always fun. But now let's talk about the role of the Morrigan. First off, she is a triple goddess, so let's not get it twisted. She is not just one being, she is three.
Okay.
So she is sometimes depicted as a single goddess, but often she appears as a triad comprising of three sisters, Bibe, Macha, and Nieman. Each sister represents different aspects of war and fate. So Macha is associated with sovereignty, fertility, and the land. She represents the protective and nurturing aspects of the Morrigan. Macha embodies the power of femininity, the fertility of the earth, and the authority of a ruling queen.
Yeah. It's also the three states of women. The maid, the matron, and the crone.
The crone, yes. But the next one is Bibe. So Bibe is the goddess of war, battle, and transformation. She embodies the aggressive and ferocious aspect of the Morrigan, which can be quite terrifying at times. Bibe is often associated with crows or ravens, and she acts as a war deity who inspires warriors, shapes the outcome of conflicts, and foretells the fate of individuals and armies.
Okay.
And then Nemen is connected to chaos, frenzy, and the destructive forces of the Morrigan. She represents the primal and wild aspects of the goddess. Nemen is associated with the psychological impact of battle, stirring up fear, confusion, and madness in warriors.
Cool.
You doing good over
I'm
there?
good. I'm golden.
Okay. So she's primarily known as the goddess of war. In a book from 1870 called The Ancient Irish Goddess of War,
It helps.
Yes. The Morrigan is described as being able to predict the death of warriors in battles, which she used to influence the outcome of war.
Okay.
According to the legend, she delivered this message after she appeared as a crow, often mistaken for a raven, and flew overhead during a war. It said that her appearance would either terrify those fighting or inspire them to fight for their life. So Elle asked, are these goddesses / goddess a representation of the triple moons associated with witchcraft? So the triple moon is oftentimes, it denotes a triple goddess symbol, but not necessarily.
It's a part of a long tradition of recognizing these three aspects. And those three aspects are played again and again and again, all the way into like ancient Greek mythology, throughout the Euro customs. The idea of the triple goddess, Morrigan falls into it, but it's not based on her. I think it's more likely she was based on it, on this notion.
And that is an interesting question because the Morrigan is not the only triple goddess. No. There are multiple triple goddesses.
Even the fates
are there three?
Are there three triple goddesses? No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Even famously the fates from Greek mythology are three women. And of course, in the Scottish tragedy, you've got the representation of the three weird sisters, and all of those things all do kind of pull on this notion of the three being the power number, ultimately.
And so that was a good question, Al. But the Morrigan is a goddess of battle, strife, and fertility. So the Morrigan appears as both the single goddess and a trio of goddesses. The Morrigan frequently appears in the ornithological guise of a hooded crow. She is one of the Tuhat de Danann, and she helped defeat the furbolgs at the... Yes, it's going to sound a little bit like a Tolkien novel. So
that's where he got all these names from.
Okay. I heard that.
But yes. And Nikki said the Morrigan is one of her favorite Celtic goddesses. And you let me pick the episode, so quit making faces over there. Or you will be kicked out, exiled.
Oh, no.
Go find the cat balls.
Exactly.
Then don't come back with that one.
But yes, so she helped defeat the furbolgs at the first battle of Mugtuhet. And the Fomori at the second battle of Magtwyred. So, by some accounts, she is the consort of the Dagda, while the Babd and Bibe and Nemen are sometimes listed as consorts of Nate, an obscure war god who is possibly Nuadu, the Sky Father in his warrior aspect.
Which is where the name come from.
Exactly.
Fun fact, I looked up the origin of the name Morgan, like the name of it, and it actually has connections to Morrigan.
Yes, that's where Morgan comes from. The modern name Morgan comes from Morrigan.
Exactly.
The Morrigan.
Oh, that was interesting.
It is very interesting.
And it lends credence to the idea that it means regal queen or great queen.
But yeah, it's... If anything, that is a very powerful name. So you Morgans out there are lucky.
Leo birthdays. What?
Yes. Thank you, EO Serenity. EO Serenity said, happy birthday, Leo birthdays. Yay. Yes, all the Leo birthdays.
On this side of the camera.
Exactly.
Yeah. Chris and Madison are both Leos, which is absolutely no surprise, and I'm an Aquarius.
Yeah, also no surprise to anybody. But
we are the rarest. So.
But anyways,
cool. We're super rare.
Rare doesn't always mean good.
So, anywho, on top of being able to foretell the deaths of warriors and influencing the outcome of conflicts, she is associated with the land and its sovereignty, representing the goddess who bestows kingship and legitimacy to rulers. Which is a lot of power if you're giving that to a deity.
Well, she rivals, is it Brigitte?
Yeah.
Is that the name?
Yeah.
Oftentimes people think that they are in dual positioning to be the queen of the Fae.
Right.
Brigitte and the Morrigan are in constant struggle to be the most powerful because a lot of people would argue that the Morrigan is much more powerful, but her ability to use power is different because Brigitte can like just, do things. The Morrigan is kind of like a big chess player.
She is. She's very strategic.
Right.
But she also has the gift of prophecy and is known for her magical ability. She can shapeshift and is often depicted in that form of a crow or a raven. So some symbols and representations that the Morrigan has. The Morrigan goddess was a shapeshifter and thus tends to be associated with a number of symbols and Celtic creatures. So, like we said, she is associated with crows and ravens, which are often omens of death and war. She is a lot of times linked to the image of a cauldron, which is a symbol of transformation, rebirth, and the cyclical nature of life and death. Her imagery often includes red and black, colors associated with blood, war, and the underworld. Now, a lot of people also associate her with Celtic knots, but they have actually no direct correlation to her historically. I think that kind of just gets clumped in with all.
It does. And it's interesting because when you think about it, all of the Morrigan's qualities are very heavily what the European culture latched on for witches.
Basically.
Cauldrons and blackened animals and the crows and all of that does have a direct lineage to the witch trials and the witch fanaticism that went on.
Exactly. So now we're going to get into a little bit of her mythology. So the origins seem to reach directly back to the megalithic cult of the mothers. Now, let me just clarify that cult is not in the same word as we use it now. Back then, if you worshipped or honored a certain deity, which was very common before, like prior to modern Christianity and, the outreach of it, it was very common for people to be a part of the cult of
the academic use of the word cult to mean primitive religious orders and groups does kind of get soured when you start thinking of modern cults with their cult of personality concept.
Exactly. So and when I say the mothers, so the mothers being Matronus, Edis, and Dicere. And usually these appeared as triple goddesses as well, and their cult was expressed through both battle ecstasy and regenerative ecstasy. Later Celtic goddesses of sovereignty, such as the trio Ardra, Banba, and Fula, also use magic and warfare. And influence in the sphere of warfare, but by means of magic and incantation rather than through physical strength, is common in these beings. So Ardra, a goddess connected to the land, is a fashion reminiscent of the mothers, could appear as a beautiful woman or as a crow, as could the Morrigan. Dicere appeared in a similar guise. In addition to being battle goddesses, they are significantly associated with fate as well as birth in many cases, along with appearing before a death or to escort the deceased. Now, the Morrigan is not she's not like Persephone or anybody. She does not rule the underworld like that. She's not there to lead you to the underworld, but she definitely could make it happen quicker for you.
She chooses you for death.
Exactly. So it is.
And in a weird sort of way, she, by default, can grant immortality by not choosing you to die.
Exactly. But it is interesting to note that some sources present Ardra and the Morrigan as half-sisters. There is certainly evidence that the concept of a raven goddess of battle wasn't limited to the Irish Celts, as inscription found in France invoking Catu Baudrois, battle raven, shows that a similar concept was known among the Gaulish Celts. So...
And also the Norse had the Valkyrie, who served a very similar purpose, on a wider scale, but they were the choosers of the dead. The maidens who choose the dead are a common theme. Ravens and crows, also Hunin and Mungan and Odin's ravens. There's enough of that spread throughout of the Northern Europe mythology that you can see. There's crossover. There's obviously, they're like, oh, ravens show up or crows show up at battlefields. Well, that's because they're eating the dead. So that's why they were there. But people started to associate, oh, that must be the emissary of a god or a goddess. The war goddess must be a crow or come as a crow. But they're just eating the bodies.
I have this image in my mind. I think it was from like a movie or something, but like of a war-torn, like a bloody battle, the aftermath of a bloody battle, and like this like crow like pulling flesh off of a soldier. What is that?
There's a couple of movies that do that.
Oh, really? It's like
I want to say that in Conan the Barbarian, there's a scene where that happens. In a movie called Sword and Sorcery, there's a thing that happened. But I think the one that you might be talking about is Excalibur. When the Mordred attacks, there's a battlefield, and there are all these people in armor, and there's this one bird just pecking at a dead man's face.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if I've ever seen that movie. Maybe that's it. Maybe I saw it. Maybe
if you haven't seen the movie,
or...
you should watch it. It's really good. Excalibur is an excellent movie for this kind of lore. This was all Arthurian lore, which is heavily influenced by Celtic lore.
Okay.
So probably the story most heavily told with the Morrigan is the goddess Morrigan and Cuchulainn. So not like Cynthia Lee Fontaine, but if you know, you know. But so the goddess Morrigan first appeared to encounter Cuchulainn while he was defending the province of Ulster from Queen Maeve and her army.
Yes.
The story goes that the Morrigan fell in love with Cuchulainn and that she tried to seduce him one day, which is very much so a part of her lore as well.
Oh, yes. Very sexual being.
Very much so.
In fact, some of the battle ecstasy they speak of is the uncontrollable sexual urges that come after surviving a battle.
Exactly. So she tried to seduce him one day before he entered battle, but for one reason or another, he said no, despite the goddess's immense beauty. She appeared to him on at least 4 occasions, and each time he failed to recognize her.
Oh.
When she appeared to him and declared her, the first time was when she appeared to him and declared her love for him. The second time, after he had wounded her, she appeared to him as an old hag, and he offered his blessings to her, which caused her to be healed. The third time, on his way to his final battle, he saw the washer at the fjord, who declared that she was washing the clothes and arms of Cuchulainn, who would soon be dead. So she was putting that mark on him.
She was.
And number 4, when he was forced by 3 hags, which represent the Morrigan in her triple aspect, to break a taboo of eating dog flesh.
Ooh.
So, and then a mighty battle began. Outraged, the Morrigan goddess used her ability to shapeshift to transform from a woman into an eel.
Dang.
This allowed her to swim up to Cuchulainn as he made his way through a fjord and trip him. He punched at the eel and managed to hurt it, though just temporarily. It then managed to transform itself into a huge wolf.
Oh.
The wolf ran at a herd of cattle and drove them at Cuchulainn. He managed to grab his famous slingshot in time and used it to fire a stone into the eye of the Morrigan goddess, who was temporarily blinded, which also leads into, you will hear some overlap in these lores, if you will, into other religions and folklores and whatnot, because that sounds very similar to David and Goliath and all of that jazz, but
absolutely
pretty common for...
And it was a belief that so the Morrigan was a part of a pantheon of gods that the Druids served and were a part of the human aspect of serving these gods, and these gods all had 3 forms outside of themselves. They had one of the air, one of the wood, and one of the sea. And so we know that the Morrigan is a crow, a wolf, and an eel. These are animals that they can transform into because of their faith and belief in nature. Their connection to nature allows them to do that. And it is believed that that is the shape-shifting abilities of a druid to have a spirit animal in that regard, one that flies, one that runs through the woods, and one that lives in the sea.
Mm-hmm. So the goddess quickly transformed again, this time taking the appearance of a cow. The cow riled up the others in the herd and managed to get them to stampede towards Cuchulainn. However, he managed to dodge the herd of cows and hit the goddess Morrigan with a stone that broke her leg and forced her to accept defeat, which I can't imagine fared well for him.
This
in the
is how
long
she
run.
courts people.
Yes,
This
literally.
is her trying to get with this guy.
Lexi said, I think we should nominate eel punching for the Olympics next round. Absolutely.
I could be an Olympic eel puncher. Just let me at him.
And there should be like a subcategory of it is, can you hit it with a slingshot?
Yeah.
That's the subcategory. But yes. And Ashley Bachman just joined us onto the live stream. So hello, Ashley, and thank you for the birthday wishes. But also, Ear Serenity said, I love the name. Ella, imagine introducing yourself at a gathering with that name. I'm assuming you're speaking about Cuchulainn, which...
Cuchulainn. I actually, so for years, I was the MC for Terrafesh, which was an Irish festival here in Savannah. This is funny because I am Asian, and there was an Asian festival that they had this redheaded woman hosting. So for some reason, I was emceeing the Terrafesh, and I would tell the story of Cuchulainn, and afterwards, the archbishop of the diocese came up to me and was like, "You are butchering that name." And he explained to me how to properly say it.
So there you go.
Cuchulainn. Yes, sir. Sorry.
He said, you are butchering it. Well, I'm not Irish, so thank you.
I'm doing this. It's my job. I'm shocked.
I am shocked. But yes. So the old woman, the Morrigan Celtic goddess, and the cow is the next portion of this tale,
sure.
if you will. So Cuchulainn made his way back to his base after winning the battle. Along the way, he met an elderly lady because she doesn't give up easily.
Always showing up in the finest of clothes.
Exactly.
I'm an older woman.
And she was sat on a little stool milking a cow. So
She might have been the cow, too.
very possible. Now, Cuchulainn was weary from battle and he wasn't paying enough attention. If he was, he would have noticed that this woman was blind in one eye and her leg was recently injured. Well, she at least gave you a fair shot.
Or she just couldn't heal in time.
That is also true. But
which is also classic werewolf stories.
Right.
So many werewolf stories are about encountering the wolf, injuring the wolf, and then encountering a person with the same injury as the wolf. That is a pass down. I think most famously cutting off the paw of the wolf and then coming home and his wife is missing her hand. That's a classic werewolf story.
That's fun. I like that. Now, not sensing the danger that he was in, Cuchulainn stopped to speak to this old woman. Apparently thankful for his company, the old woman offered him a drink of milk. Never accept milk from strangers, kids. So after finishing his drink,
It came straight from the cow. She poisoned the cow.
You never know.
That's true.
So after finishing his drink, he blessed the woman, not realizing that upon doing so, he cured the Morrigan goddess of all of her injuries.
That's the blessings. That's Cuchulainn's blessing.
And restored the goddess to her full strength. However, the Morrigan did not attempt to engage Cuchulainn in battle. She had already outsmarted him and tricked him into healing her. So the goddess Morrigan and Cuchulainn met once before the great warrior's death. Cuchulainn was en route to another great battle when he encountered a woman scrubbing battle armor covered in blood. Because again, she does not give up easily. This was seen as a very bad omen to encounter before entering battle. Cuchulainn passed the woman and continued to confront his enemy. It was during the battle that he was mortally wounded. With his last bit of energy, he used some sturdy twine to tie himself upright to a nearby boulder in an attempt to frighten off any other enemies close by, like a human scarecrow.
Right.
Basically. But
everybody knew who he was, so just seeing him would probably be enough.
Exactly. But also, that just shows she got the final word here. She chose that it was his
She's
time.
the goddess of death, and he was just a really rad guy.
Exactly. So she was the real winner here. Now, another famous tale that is associated with her is the Tombokulienya, the cattle raid of Cooley. So one of the most famous tales involving the Morrigan is the Tombokulienya, and in this epic, she encounters the hero, Cuchulainn, and offers him her love. When he rejects her, she transforms into various forms to hinder him in battle, but ultimately he defeats her in each form. Later, she foretells his death. So I feel like this is just
the story we just told, right?
Right, basically. But again, with all folklore, depending on where you are,
exactly.
It can give it different names. But there is also the Battle of Twyard, and the Morrigan plays a crucial role in the mythology between the Battle of the Tuatha De Danann and the Fomorians. And so remember the Tuatha Dayan, basically they are the Fae beings, and then there are the Fomorians. So she prophesizes the victory of the Tuatha De Danann and incites them to fight. And so, again, she ends up choosing who she wants to win that battle. And of course, that is going to be her side. So,
right. And that's kind of where worshiping the Morrigan would come into play. You would worship the Morrigan if you were a warrior, because if she favored you in battle, you couldn't lose. But what she wanted from you was probably more than anybody is really prepared to give.
Right.
She's intense, let's just say.
Exactly.
You don't want the crazy ex-girlfriend that the Morrigan can be.
It's very true. Now we're going to talk about the hounds of the Morrigan, which now black dogs and hounds, hellhounds and things like that are very common in a lot of different mythologies. And I think, a lot of that has to do with so much overlap of absolutely. Same thing like you were saying before with witches and witchcraft trials and whatnot. So it makes sense that she would also get hounds, if
absolutely.
You will. So the hounds of the Morrigan hold a significant place in Celtic folklore and literature, particularly in stories involving Cuchulainn. Their appearances in myths and legends add to the mystical and otherworldly nature of the Morrigan and contribute to the rich tapestry of the Celtic mythology. The hounds of the Morrigan are supernatural creatures associated with the goddess, and they are often referred to as the Cuchulainn's hounds or Cuchulainn's frenzy due to their connection to the legendary hero Cuchulainn. So in the mythology, the hounds of the Morrigan are described as spectral or otherworldly beings. They are typically depicted as large black hounds with glowing red eyes. These hounds possess extraordinary speed, strength, and hunting prowess. The hounds of the Morrigan are believed to roam the battlefield, preying on the souls of fallen warriors. They act as harbingers of death and are associated with the chaotic and destructive aspects of war, which in general, black dogs and hellhounds and every lore you can find in that regard to black dogs.
Absolutely.
Usually mean.
Still to this day.
Yeah.
Black dog stories, pepper the world. They're cryptids now. Mm-hmm. People will talk about the black dogs. We have black dog stories all around this area. Black dogs with red eyes. Mm-hmm. Also, if you've ever seen an Irish wolfhound, they are horse-sized dogs that are terrifying and could obviously snap you in half if they wanted to. So
they're so sweet, though.
Can be. Absolutely can be. But I think you could train them to be fearsome war dogs.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they go toe-to-toe with wolves. I mean, that's their whole thing.
I mean, have you ever seen a what's the big black dog that you always say you want, JT?
A Newfoundland.
It is a Cane Corso.
A Cane Corso.
I think Cane Corsos are fierce.
That's what I would picture being a hellhound, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'll never forget because in the original Omen, they use Rottweilers.
Oh yeah.
And the Rottweilers, like, just facial construction is an angry animal. That animal is not pleased with anything. So I've had a lifelong fear of Rottweilers, probably from that movie, because they just look angry. Which also made me less afraid of Doberman Pinschers, even though they're very fierce animals, because they kind of look like deflated Rottweilers. Like, you got a Rottweiler and you popped it with a pin, and it's like...
But these hounds in particular are sometimes depicted as a trio or a pack, which would make sense, emphasizing their ferocity and power. They are said to be relentless in their pursuit and relentless in their consumption of the souls of the fallen.
Oh, boy.
Nom, nom, nom.
Nom, nom, nom.
If we're saying that the hounds of the Morrigan are essentially extensions of herself, is she eating the souls of the fallen?
So... there are stories that are not family friendly about the goings-ons post-battle.
Right.
And the kind of frenzies that would happen because of her presence. And I think in the case of the hounds, they are like an army at her beck. Not her,
right.
but creatures under her sway. I think.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Because
I don't think she turns into the dogs. I
right.
think she commands them.
So, in Irish folklore and literature, the hounds of the Morrigan make appearances in various myths and tales, often serving as companions or symbols of the Morrigan's presence.
She'll send them like emissaries, like representatives of the.
So they do add an air of mystery and danger and also supernatural power to the mythology surrounding the Morrigan. But they are now kind of overall a symbol of her as well.
Which adds to the interesting lore of the taboo of eating dog meat. Mm-hmm. And adding to the idea that you don't want to eat an animal that is favored by a god.
Right. Well, in that
you don't want to eat your best friend.
Right.
That's what it is.
No, they're tasty.
But
well, if you don't overwork them. I mean, if they're all muscle. Ugh.
Well, right. So a little bit on the rituals and the cult of the Morrigan and modern influence in general. There is very limited evidence to show that there ever was a formal cult of the Morrigan in ancient Ireland, but she was likely venerated through oral tradition, stories, and local rituals, which to a degree makes sense because I feel like there were plenty of other deities that people were like, this is going to be my main one.
Right. And you realize that there are so many entities that live in the goddess and god realm that people probably didn't spend a lot of time like with an altar to or anything, but they kept them in mind. They thought about them in certain regards, especially the Morrigan. You would think about the Morrigan before battle. Mm-hmm. You would hope she would, but you may not build like a church or an altar to the Morrigan. She wouldn't accept any of your offerings anyway. So
fair enough.
But if she likes you, she'll go out of her way to make you miserable.
Right.
Because she just doesn't know how to show her affection.
Well, we'll get into that a little bit further on, but so some of the modern influence. So the Morrigan remains a pretty prominent figure in contemporary neo-pagan and Wiccan witchcraft type traditions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she symbolizes empowerment, transformation, and the fierce aspects of femininity because she will not be associated with any kind of softness.
No, not at all.
But the Morrigan's confidence kind of radiates through history along with her strength, power, and very shameless sexuality. Women today...
She never wears clothes.
She does not.
She is sky-clad, always.
Yes. So women today are discouraged from using their sexuality to obtain power, but in the Morrigan's thought process, she embraces it proudly to get what she wants. According to lore, she laid with many men and had dozens of children from unknown fathers.
Yes.
In the ancient Celtic community, this was not something to be ashamed of, though. Sex is a natural part of life, and it was very much a part of their culture. But there are 2 instances in her mythology when the Morrigan based her decision on whether to help a community or whether or not the king would lay with her.
Right.
So she said, if he doesn't, then you are done. When she approached Dagda, he happily obliged because she was beautiful.
Yes.
But there is a river fjord in Ireland the locals still call the bed of the couple, referring to the union of the Morrigan and Dagda. Some references have said that Dagda was the Morrigan's consort, in other words, her husband. Now, the question being, is Morrigan good or bad? It's a loaded question. So, the Morrigan is obviously a very complex deity in Celtic mythology, and her nature cannot be easily categorized into good or bad because with everything with her, it's some of them is very good aspects, but although she might have bad ways of going about it.
To take a good examination of in the early religions, the gods were full of foibles, weaknesses. They made mistakes. They acted impulsively. They reflected more of how humans behave. They had human weaknesses. And that brings about this interesting regard for the idea of these goddesses because conceptually, they live on another plane and they kind of rule over us by power because they have different power set than we do. But they are also recognized as individuals and that you're trying to court them to favor you. Mm-hmm. But you also knew that their whims were never reliable, that their actions were never, 100% scrutable, which I've always found fascinating. Like when you start to look at the fallen mythologies, especially the multi-deity pantheons, it's always about the fact that they couldn't get along with each other that brought about the ruination of the entire pantheon. The entire, Olympus fell because they couldn't get along. Valhalla is full of people who are very angry about how it all went down for their gods. It's just this notion that the gods were only one step ahead of us, not so far and so, inscrutable. There's even stories where these people, like the Morrigan, could live in a house in your neighborhood. Like you could go down to the Morrigan's house and be like, that's where the Morrigan lives. Like, what?
Right.
The goddess of death? Get down.
Don't say it so loud.
Don't wake her up.
Yeah.
Well,
but it brings about this interesting kind of notion that there was a time when there was a tangible back and forth between these characters, and they're oftentimes just messing with humans, just messing with us.
Well, and it's also important to note, in every form of mythology, in pretty much every pantheon that you can look into, these deities have different moral codes than humans do.
Yes. They can't recognize our morality because they can become very offended by things that we would never assume is offensive. And they can be very callous about things that we think are very offensive.
Exactly. So I think that's a big part of it, of why it's kind of hard to say she's bad, because in her moral code, she's doing what she's supposed to be doing, which is deciding, I don't like you.
Right.
So, you know.
Fate.
But anyways, so it's important to understand that ancient mythologies often depict deities with multifaceted personalities and characteristics. So even though they are categorized into, you're the goddess of death, you're the god of the sun, or whatever, they have very nuanced personalities in their lore and things like that. So,
and they can become very offended by the other gods or the way we treat the other gods. You know, if you favor another god over one, you can really step on some toes in the preternatural existence.
So It's important to approach the Morrigan with respect and understanding, recognizing her multifaceted nature, rather than focusing on a simple concept of good or bad. It may be more fruitful to explore the different aspects of the Morrigan and seek to understand the lessons and wisdom she offers versus the way she went about it, if you will. Ultimately, how individuals perceive the Morrigan can be very based on personal beliefs, cultural interpretations, and individual experiences, if you're looking at it from a witchcraft perspective, if you will. But many who honor the Morrigan may find her energy empowering, protective, and transformative. But it is, if you are somebody who works with the Morrigan on a more witchcraft wavelength, if you will, it is important to forge your own connection and relationship with this being, if you will, because it could be quite different than anybody else's experience. Now, on to working with the Morrigan, just in a witchcraft perspective. So, basically, in witchcraft, the Morrigan holds a significant place as a deity and is associated, like I was saying before, transformation, magic, and the cycles of life and death. While interpretations may vary among practitioners, the Morrigan is often revered as a goddess of feminine power and empowerment. So, within witchcraft traditions, the Morrigan is seen as that patroness of magic and spellcraft. So she can be very powerful in guiding witches, particularly those working with transformation and protective magic. Because, boy, is there ever a deity to work with, you want to be protected.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, I should probably preface, this is all up to interpretation. So not saying yes or no that that these deities are prominent, and not saying you have to believe in them, if you will. But
it's really what they represent.
Right.
Because what they represent becomes encapsulated by whatever powers that you are looking to be influenced by. So if you pour these relevant things, female empowerment, change, having a warlike approach to your problems, they very well could be embodied in the Morrigan and could be utilized, and that puts you in contact with an icon, if you will, a shape to your very specific power needs. So yeah, it's interesting because a lot of times when you talk about this stuff, it blurs the lines of what you can verify or what you can, because a lot of people will talk with absolutes about their spiritual goddesses and their attachments, but all of these goddesses and gods were formed through a necessity of what they wanted. And the ones who can provide it back are these characters, are the ones that stepped forward in history and are revered for doing these things.
Exactly. So just prefacing that. But if this is something that interests you, this is at least the information I can provide you on it. But
it's like a very interesting, bizarre sidebar is if you've ever been in a Chinese restaurant and in the corner you see a statue of a fierce-looking man, and he's got a darn dao, which is a long spear with a giant sword on the end, and he's just looking like he's going to mess your day up. That's Quan Ti. He's a god, and he is put in Chinese restaurants so frequently because he is also, while he is the god of war, he is also the god of tofu.
That's the god I like. Yeah. I would love a god of tofu in my life. God of tofu.
And I mean that's a simplification. He's a god of agriculture and farming and by extension tofu. But it makes that it's like why is this the god in the restaurant? Where's my wavy cat? Why do I have this fierce, scary looking thing? It's like, oh yeah, that's Quan Ti. He does protect the business because we serve food, we serve nourishment.
Yeah.
We serve tofu.
Again, multifaceted. But, so practitioners who invoke her during rituals and spell work oftentimes seek her assistance in harnessing their own personal power and in amplifying their magical intentions. Now, the Morrigan's associated with battle and war translates into her role as a protector in witchcraft practices. She is often invoked for strength, courage, and protection in times of personal or spiritual battles. So if you're working on like returning to sender on a certain, dark energy that's sent your way, probably a good person to
absolutely
to bring forward. But
it's funny because death in so many ways has a dark connotation to us, but it isn't. It is an essential force in life and should not be revered with fear, but with respect.
Right. So she also oftentimes is very helpful if you're working on shadow work, and she's a powerful guide in that realm of personal transformation and the shadow work. She is great to be called upon during rituals and meditations that focus on facing and integrating the shadow aspects, the darker parts of your personality, of your true self. And so she's great to assist the process of uncovering and embracing hidden truths, facilitating personal growth and aiding in the release of old patterns and attachments. She's also very helpful in the connection to nature and the cycles of life. So because she is technically a symbol of that cycle of nature, of life, death, and rebirth, she oftentimes is great to honor during Sabbaths such as Samhain, which is Halloween, Beltane, which is essentially the spring equinox era of time, and is acknowledged to align with the natural rhythms of the earth. She's good to embrace when you're trying to bring forward divine feminine energy, because she represents aspects of femininity such as strength, independence, and intuition. So she's great for practitioners who want to connect with their own inner power, embrace their femininity, and honor the multifaceted nature of the goddess. Probably the thing I should mention the most is the number one way people realize that the Morrigan might be reaching out to you.
Let's hear it.
Nightmares.
Yeah.
She gives you nightmares. So if you have a feeling that she might be reaching out to you and you have endless gruesome nightmares, usually lot of blood, a lot of death, mayhem, chaos, might be reaching out to you.
She'll also scratch you.
Yes.
And it's not this kind of scratching that we get with demonic. It's like lover scratches down your back.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So
it's kind of like a succubus, I guess.
A little bit, which actually,
realm.
I've never even thought about that. But yeah, she does fit a little bit into that category in general. But also ways that you can honor her as we're wrapping this up, if that is something that you are intrigued by. First off, do your research further into this.
Oh, yes. There's so much.
If that is something that you're trying to do, but you can honor her with statues and images of herself. Or of crows and ravens, of adding feathers,
right,
like
feathers,
black feathers, using black or dark colored candles, putting a cauldron out for her. She likes obsidian and amethyst, which are associated with protection or intuition, or you can use bloodstone. And then also symbols of war, so weapons, shields, helmets, things of that nature. You can leave items like dark chocolates, red wine, certain herbs that are associated with her. You can leave sacred texts or poetry that is depicting her in some way, or war in general. Those are all great ways to honor her in certain ways, even if you're not actively working with her.
So just put Saving Private Ryan on your DVD player. And
exactly.
Running 24/7.
I mean, I have a little black dog that loves war movies, so
there you go.
he does it for me.
Could it be the Morrigan?
Honestly, he might. No, he's not fierce enough. But and then last but not least, a great way that I've found if you are thinking that a certain deity might be reaching out to you, or entities in general, a lot of them have certain tarot cards associated with them.
Yes, absolutely.
And you can ask, to give clarity. And so with her in particular, some of the cards that oftentimes are associated with her is the High Priestess, the Tower, the Empress, the Chariot, the Five of Swords, and the Death card.
Okay.
So there you go. Now, to wrap it up, this is technically a From One to Wicked episode. So I am going to say, even though she can kill you and will happily do so, I don't think in her moral code, I don't think it's that malicious. I feel like she's just doing her job.
I think she's fierce and frightening, but I don't think she's malicious. Or that's not true. She's very malicious, but I don't think she's malicious by her standards.
Right.
By her standards, she is acting very much in accordance to us and rules that we can understand. Rules that if imparted upon us, it's like, oh, don't say that. Don't do that. Don't be like that. So I think one of the saddest things about the Morrigan is the notion that she does not understand love.
Yeah. How
to court it, how to have it, what to do with it. And that puts her at this incredible disadvantage when dealing with it because, the stories of her in love are always kind of tragic.
Well, and even something that a lot of witchcraft practitioners have brought up is that when the Morrigan chooses you, you don't really get to deny it.
Yeah, you don't get to deny it. She will pick on you until you either embrace her or die.
Yeah, basically. And so...
Which is the story of Cuckoo Lane, really.
Basically.
Embrace it or die.
So... with that, though, I think I give her a 5.
5, absolutely. Because she's capable of horribly malicious and horribly scary acts, and she is a scary entity, but she also can favor you.
Right.
And become, an ally of, undeniable advantage.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was going to give her a 4 because, being associated with war, death, and destruction doesn't make her, I guess purely bad. I think that, like you said, she's about the cycles of life, the balance in between those cycles. Also, she's a goddess that looks out for her people in her land, and not just someone who brings chaos. I think that she's real complex, and I don't know. I'm thinking in the realm of 5, but like a high 4.
Yeah.
High 4.
Well, yeah, and that's fair to note because I don't think she's responsible for wars. She is just responsible for outcomes of wars. Yeah. So that that puts her in a different field. It's like where there is war, she is called.
Right.
Where there is battle, she comes and presides over. But she's not sitting there saying you should fight that guy and you should fight this guy and you should do this. She's not a politician.
Right. Yeah, there are plenty of other deities.
There are a lot of deities who take that role.
Yeah.
Who whisper in ears and make you do things. She mostly is just like, you're dead and 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 you're dead. And that's such a bizarre thing is how many cultures assign death, to an entity whose job it is to collect the dead. A lot of people die.
Right.
That is a very busy entity. That's, show up, where, Aunt Marjorie is peacefully going at 104 or where, little Timmy has put a firecracker in his mouth. That is a wide spectrum of responsibility.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think she is definitely a fierce entity, not one that you would want to, like Kim said, I don't think I would want to casually play with her.
No, don't casually play with her.
But... on the side of it, though, on her moral code, which is an important factor, she's like, I'm just doing my job. This is what...
it seems like she could be swayed by good argument or good conversation.
Right.
Like if you were to engage with her, if you could understand her motives, you could possibly, express a path to, survival.
Exactly.
Or you could just be Cuckoo Lane, who may just be a homosexual.
Very possible.
Just not interested in her at all, and she's so confused by that.
She's like, I don't understand.
It's like, I will just keep badgering you until you die.
Exactly.
Love me!
So Let us know in the comments, y'all, what you think you would rate her on a scale from 1 to wicked. But thank you guys so much for listening to my birthday episode.
Whoop, whoop.
JT never lets me talk about mythology and fae, so this is very exciting. And if you did enjoy this and you want us to do more kind of deep dives into certain mythologies and stuff, I'm always down for that.
And almost every mythology lingers in our folklore and in our superstitions. Most mythologies are the seeds that led to the things we're afraid of now.
Right. So, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And my name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And stay spooky, y'all.